Assalamu alaikum to another episode of North American Muslim Foundation Senior Talk funded by New Horizons Seniors Program. And I'm your host Tathir Abbas, and we are in conversation with Mr. Jim Karigianis.
Thank you for inviting me
Welcome
to
to our show.
Thank you very
How
much.
are
I
you
appreciate
doing?
being here. You know what? Doing well. You know, it's coping with the times. But doing
Coping
well.
with the times, absolutely. So, Mr. Jim, in our talks, we basically discuss about the guests' journey from where they started in Canada and to where they are today. So, would you like to give us a little perspective from the first time you landed in Canada and then onwards your journey?
I landed in Canada August the 4th, 1966. I was 11 years old. A friend of ours picked us at the airport. And for the people that were here pre-2000, they probably remember Terminal 1, the circular tower. And, you know, you used to go around to go up in the parking lot. Right now, that does not exist. Terminal 1 right now it's a new animal.
Right.
So they took us downtown to the downtown Toronto. And at the time, the highest building was the Royal Bank Tower. And I was looking up and I go, wow, look at this, height. And I was amazed. And over the years, this became true home.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a newcomer or an old comer, you always have a longing for the old country. But this is home now, and I've been here for close to, 66 years. And
Wow.
sorry, 56 years. I lost track of time.
Right.
56 years, and I grew a family. I got married. I've got grandchildren. So I am very happy to be in Canada, and I'm blessed to be here. But it doesn't matter how long you're here. It doesn't matter where you're from. You always have the longing for the old country. You always want to go back. You always want to just go and visit.
Absolutely.
But that's where it is. I just want to go visit.
Wow. It's only visiting. You do not want to go back and settle there.
Very few people leave Canada to go back and settle back to the old country.
I totally agree.
We tried it in 1982. We went back. We lasted 6 months.
Okay.
And then we had to come back. I mean, it's not... It's like a record player. Remember the old record players? You put the needle on and the record player goes on. So life is like a record player. When you playing the record player spinning around, the needle is stuck here. When you leave that country, your thoughts and your thing are stuck back there, although the needle keeps progressing.
Absolutely.
So we left in 66. I've seen the country change when I'm visiting, and I've seen the people change. The dialects have changed. The way of life has changed. My thoughts are, longing for the old days. But here in Canada, as you change, you're involved, and you're changing on an everyday basis, so you don't feel the change as much as when you go back.
Absolutely.
So we tried to go back, and it just wasn't for us.
Wow.
I mean, kids, school, and everything else, and we just said, okay, you know what? So we came back to Canada, we settled here.
Right.
This is home. I mean, after 16 years in Canada, we tried going back, but it wasn't home.
Right.
So this is home. This is where we grow family, grandkids. My mother is getting to be 93. She's elderly, so this is home. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And to anybody that doesn't feel like this is home, I have news for you. Try going back for a little while, and after you go back for a couple of days, you'll say, no washroom facilities,
True.
no transportation, there's internet in all the countries now, mobile
Very
phones, sometimes more, but the beds might not be as soft. You might not have as much space as you got here. So this is the
Absolutely.
stuff that makes you come back.
A lot of luxury here that we take for granted, I would say. So I would like to know from your perspective, you have spent your childhood here and then your adolescence, and then you became an adult here and now a senior. So take us through this journey. What changes have you seen on your way? Like you have evolved as Canada has evolved.
I came to Canada in the centennial year, 1966, 67. 67 was centennial year. And I was 11 years old. Times were tough. Not economically,
Okay.
but as an immigrant. I was a child. My English were limited. I remember one time when it say in school that I read a book and the two kids were having a fight. And I couldn't say the word fight. And I said, the two kids were on fire.
Okay.
So the teacher looked at me. And then, you know, those hardships. And when I went into grade 9, that was grade 6. I mean, but as I progressed into grade 9, my English got better, my marks got better. I made the honor roll. And throughout high school, I was a top student. Wow. So, like, I left, I'm here, I've got hard times. But between grade 6 and grade 10, kids would pick at me because of the language, of my last name, of being from another country. And I constantly had to defend myself to the point that, you know, there would be some arguments and some physical fist fighting. And after grade 9, I sort of grew up like I grew up a whole foot. So when I went into grade 9, some people from grade 8 that were bugging me came up and they sort of went like this. They looked at me, and I go, buddy, I'm going to do this. So life from grade 9 to grade 13, because we had grade 13 at the time in Canada, was easier in school. My marks were better. But economically, we were through hardship. You know, we didn't have a home of our own. We were renting. We were staying in the one-bedroom home. I was sleeping in the den. So it wasn't until the end of high school that we finally bought a home. It was a modest home, not very well. Now it would be a very expensive home because it was down on Danforth and Coxwold by the beaches. Oh. So I finished university. I started working. So money started flowing in to the family because, like, you know, I was the only child. I was married, and when you got more than one income, like my father's income, then you're more relaxed.
For sure.
And after I finished university, my father had a dream of going back home. So we tried it. It lasted for 6 months. So we did that return wish. And then after that return wish, we came back to Canada.
Interesting.
And we started our own business. We had a few businesses on the Danforth. We had 2 shoe stores, 3 and wholesale business in shoes. And after that, I got involved in politics. So my journey in politics started in 1987, 88. Okay. Got elected, moved on. My political career spanned 30 years, 32 years.
Wow.
And now I'm at the stage of retirement of my life, which I should retire. Okay. But we've opened our own, my partner and I, which my son-in-law, we've opened a business, GTA Strategies, and we provide logistical support to non-for-profits, to builders, to associations, to different entities. So we do lobbying, consulting. We do everything for the public that you want us to help you out with, except immigration.
Okay.
So we're not immigration consultants. So we went from a 2-people company to 7. So I'm starting a new career on my retirement stage of life.
Wow. So
the journey has not been easy. Mm-hmm. It has been pleasant. I wouldn't change anything. I would, if I had to do it all over again, do the same thing. I'm married to a wonderful wife. We've been married 46 years. Wow. We've got 5 daughters, 4 son-in-laws, 3 grandchildren. Oh. So I'm blessed. We went from a family of 3, myself, my father, my mother, to 13 right now, 14 with grandchildren. So, you know, I'm blessed. So would I change anything? No. This home, Canada, has been good to me. I count my blessings, and I'm very happy to be here.
Wow, that is such an insight. So tell me one thing. The struggles that you have seen so far, do you think that the current immigrants who come to Canada, things have changed for them?
Times are a little harder.
Now the times are a little harder.
Because when we came in, I'll give you a scenario. You're working for $1 an hour, but you can buy a house for about $6,000 to $8,000. Now you work for $20 an hour, but the house is 1.3, 1.5 million.
For
So
sure.
when you do that analogy, it takes you longer to establish your dream of owning a house. It takes you longer to establish yourself, to find work, but you also have more resources. When
Right.
we came in, there was not as much NGOs helping you out. It was not as much as, you had to rely on your family. You had to rely on going to on friends and your own community. Now, yes, you rely on your community and your friends, but there is also the government of Canada and the provincial government as well as the city government of the city of Toronto. They have resources to help you out.
Right.
There is, I mean, like the program that we're doing right now, there is resources to help the seniors out. There's resources to get the seniors out of their homes and feel together. Back then, there were fewer resources.
Right.
Mind you, the world has moved on. I mean, right now you can talk to people halfway around the world on Zoom,
Very true.
so things have changed.
And what about during the pandemic time? How would you like to give an insight of that from your perspective? How did you cope up with?
I emptied my pocket for the show and I left my mask. Pandemic, I visited Wuhan, where supposedly the pandemic started in China. And they're wonderful people, great city, well built, and the people are very friendly. And the pandemic for the last 2.5 to 3 years has changed the world.
For
It has
sure.
cooped us in our house, we're working remotely, and there's an eagerness. To give you an example of the uneasiness that's out there, people that drive, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you were on the highway, you were driving more easier. Last night I was coming back from visiting a friend in Orangeville, and the amount of tailgating, the amount of cutting in, the amount of speeding people were doing, the anxiousness that was there, I've noticed. So, pandemic has changed our life. It has affected the young ones. There's absolutely no social skills
For sure.
of getting around. My granddaughter just went back to school, and she was scared to associate with the other children. And you can see it, but the young ones, they'll get over it quickly. The university kids that didn't have the first year university, the second year university, the kids that were at home and they're on Zoom, they didn't have exercise, they didn't have participation out in recess, to the seniors that were closed in. If you
Yeah.
didn't have anything to do. So COVID has changed a generation.
For sure about that.
And hopefully we'll get over it. But every 100 years, there's been a disaster. 1820 we had the cholera. 1920 we had the Spanish flu. Now we got COVID. Hopefully, for another 100 years, we won't have anything, we'll overcome it. But COVID has changed our way of life.
No doubt about it. So now that we are coming back to our original times before COVID, basically.
God willing, we'll come back, inshallah. Because
Inshallah.
right now,
Inshallah.
they're talking of an eighth wave.
Yes.
and people are saying, okay, let me get sick, let me get over and done with. But,
Very true.
hopefully we're getting back to
But
normality.
like now that we're still trying to go back to our old times, like we say, pre-pandemic time. So do you think that we will be able to ever go back to where we were
It will take us
post-pandemic?
It will take us a couple of years to go post-pandemic. I would say our way of life has changed. You're not going to work from home. You don't have to be in the office. So you find a lot more companies shutting down the space that they had, the office space, and
True.
instead people work from home. You will find the hybrid model where you work 3 days at the office and 2 days from home. It will allow you to have more time with the family because you don't have to do that traveling back and forth to the office. The roads will be less congested. So there's one plus that the COVID will give us is family time. But on the same token, I think it's changed our way of life where when you were in the office, you were able to go over and speak to your colleague. Now you're working from home, you get them on Zoom, so you're constantly on the tube. It will take 5 to 10 years for us to finally come back. But the way of life, the way that we carried our business has changed. and some of it for the better and some of it for the worse.
Wow. So being a father-in-law, being a father, being a grandfather, what, like, you have seen in front of you right now, there are two generations. The generation of your daughters and then the generation of your grandchildren. How do you, like, do you see that difference? Like, me as a mother, I can only see my child's difference, but you have seen the two completely different generations. Do you find that generation gap between you and your grandchildren?
My oldest granddaughter was 4 years old. She was born pre-pandemic. The second one was a pandemic baby.
Oh.
She was born in the middle of a pandemic. When she was born at the hospital, we couldn't go and visit. We couldn't. It was her father, her mother, and the baby stuck in the hospital for 4 days, and we couldn't go visit. So, can you imagine that you're having a newborn? You know how everybody goes running to see the newborn.
Sure.
We couldn't do it. The third child, she's going to be 6 months, so she was again at the end of the tail end of the pandemic. But when she was 3 months old, she got into COVID. And it devastated us.
Oh.
So, having seen these 4 generations with my mother, certainly getting your perspective in life. You get the elderly, the senior that you have to look after the 93-year-old, and you have to be there.
Very true.
Being retired, you want to travel, but because you got your kids, you still have to be there. So, my generation is the sandwich generation, where we get sandwiched between our grandkids, our kids, and our parents. So, we're stuck.
Right.
And if you are the sandwich generation and you don't have those responsibilities, you're blessed because you can do other things, but you're not blessed because you don't have that family surrounding.
Very true.
So when you have a family surrounding, when you have people around you, you're blessed. I've seen the changes of COVID and how that affected us, and I also see how the 3 generations are behaviorally different.
Wow.
Like in my generation, if I did something wrong, my mother will say, "Wait until your father comes home." Of course, my father never hit me, but my mother would occasionally whack me one in the butt, or she would take the spoon handle, and that was acceptable. And we used to say, "Spare the rod, spoil the child." In my generation, it was less of punishing a child, but it was more of conversion. And sometimes you will, very rarely would you say, "I'm going to take my belt out."
Yeah.
The threat was there. With the new generation, right now with my granddaughters, I see the patience of my daughters. I see how their fathers are playing with the kids. When my kids were growing up, I was too busy trying to make a life, too busy working to provide for the family.
So true.
But after you are in Canada for a couple of generations, if the family stays together, if they're united, you're a little more economically sound, that you can look after the grandkids, you can play with them, you can fool around with them.
Any advice for our seniors and for our younger generation? Because you have the 4 generations in your household.
I would say to the seniors, be patient with the young ones.
Okay.
Work with them, because when you're a young generation and you're trying to make your way in life, you're in this fast pace. You got to move fast. You don't spend time with your family. You do the 24-hour work. The seniors, you have to be there to protect your family, your kids, provide for them, work for them. And you know what? If you got some money, do yourself a favor. I'm talking straight at you. Don't wait until you die to live it to your kids. Work with them now. Spend it on them. Because the more you spend it on them, the more easier it's going to become for them, and the better they're going to be. I remember my father. He passed away, and when he was alive, it's like, "Dad, can you help us out?" "I have no money. I have no money." Then he dies, and it's all that. And I went to myself, wow, I'm going to use some of this to make my life easier.
Right.
So if you get a chance to work with your family, you get a chance to spend some of your fortune on your kids,
Very
wisely do it.
Very true, very true. And for our younger generation.
Where you are, we were.
Right.
Where we're now, you don't know if you're going to get there. And you don't know what's waiting for you. So younger generation, have patience with us. Because for the simple reason, we're older. We might know a little bit more. We've
For
seen the
sure.
sun rise and fall,
For sure.
rise and set more times than you have.
Definitely.
We have a little bit more knowledge. Have patience with us. And reach out to us and work with us. Because if you don't, then you will be missing us.
For
and not only
sure.
that, but we'll also be we will lose that opportunity and we'll miss you.
Very true, very true. So with this, we come to the end of our today's episode. Thank you so much, Mr. Jim, for coming to our show
Thank you.
and giving us such an amazing insight of your life and such lovely advices as well. And for my viewers, thank you so very much for joining us for today's episode. Please stay tuned for the upcoming episode, and I'm going to see you for the next episode. Till then, you take care of yourself. I'm your host, Tathir Abbas. Khuda Hafiz.